one in this room can beat me at Yu Yu Hakusho Dark Tournament for the PS2. I own 7 copies of that game. So he made the first mistake. The second sacrifice.
This is not the panel, by the way. This is not the panel.
No, this is not the panel.
Okay, it is time. It is time.
Okay.
Firstly, thank you, everybody, for showing up. We appreciate you taking like the last hours of MAGFest to listen to me yell at you about fighting games. We very much appreciate it. I am Jordan Olsen, aka Montel Chilliams, aka the Glimmering Warlock. This is my homie over here, the founder of the OYB squad. Just Zoob. Just Zoob. And just to give a little breakdown of like why I feel like I can sit on a podium and talk to you about fighting games and how about not to get washed up. I've been playing Tekken 7 for the better part of 3 years now. I have now finally kind of gotten past the first hump of just getting beaten up all the time. I place pretty good in my locals now. I got around one pools in Evo, and Zoob over here.
Yep. I am an old man. I've been playing these games for 15 plus years. What am I doing with my life?
Apparently TOing Boston Tekken since the dawn of time.
I've placed multiple tournaments. I've been top 5 in Melty Blood.
Go back to the fucking bathroom, bro. Come on.
So yeah, I mean, like I've played in multiple games. I've top 5'd in a few of them around my area, and I've done well in an intercontinental scene. But
yeah.
Anyways.
So I am assuming the first question some of you might have here is, what the fuck is a basement king? What is this asshole talking about at the title of his panel? I think it is a familiar feeling. It's something that I got when I was about 12 to 13. Soul Calibur 2 just dropped. I got it on the GameCube. And at my mom's house, nobody could fucking touch me. My brother, nah. My friend Mikey, Ben, nobody could step to me. So about a couple years go by, and there's a local anime convention near me called Kineticon. And I go, I'm like, oh shit, they got Soul Calibur 2 setups. I'm nice with it, and I got fucking washed. Nothing, I could do nothing. I did a low sweep, and someone paused the game and go, what the fuck? Dude, don't ever do that. That move's terrible. And just beat the shit out of me. It was terrible.
Scrubbing bubbles.
And I'm sure that is a common sentiment for most people. I mean, my brother had the same thing where he went to college. They have a Smash Bros club there, and he goes, Jordan, I'm gonna join the Smash Bros club. And I couldn't stop him in time. Go, no, they're killers over there. They're monsters. You don't even know how to. And he side rolled once. They paused the game. Goes, don't ever do that, dude. That move's actually really bad. And then they just beat him up until he left the game forever. It's rough. And I know that is a common thing amongst most people. It's the starting point.
Yeah. When you're the king of the basement, no one can touch you. Then you go into a big. You go from your pond, your podunk pond in the middle of your backyard, and then you go into the ocean, and then you get eaten by a great white, and you're like, what just happened?
And you don't even know that you're bad.
Yeah.
It happens. And this is for getting to, the entire reason I made this panel is to get to the next level where, listen, I have not won anything. I won money playing fighting games, but it's not like I'm good at my locals, right? It's how to get to that actual next step where you're not just embarrassed to play fighting games in front of other people anymore.
Yeah.
First things first, I hate to say this, but this is you're not just gonna leave this panel and then start whooping ass. This is a thing that takes time.
Yeah.
And it takes effort.
I see some people getting up.
Yeah. And it's a hard sell for most people because this isn't fighting games are pretty unique even just because it's one-on-one. It's not like any a MOBA or a Counter-Strike or anything like that where you have either people that can help you out. Those are team-based games. You can't lay the blame on anything else.
Yeah.
All of your sins are laid bare.
Yeah.
Every bad DP you've ever made, you are gonna you feel in your chest when you get punished for it.
Yes. It's a final exam and you're naked in front of the class.
But it's every match.
Yeah, every match.
And also it takes consistency. However you can do it too. I don't have kids. I'm out of my mom's house. I do have a full-time job, but I can spend, a couple hours a day practicing. Some people don't have that luxury, let's say.
Yeah.
But whatever time you can try and spare, it's gonna have to go into it at some point if you really want to get better.
It's just like anything in life. If you want to get good at something, you have to practice and you have to make that time sink and that time commitment. When I was primed up, you can move along. When I primed up, I was playing at least like 3 hours a day in order to get good at, tournament good. And that wasn't I went to my first tournament and I got 5th. And that was just a thing. Like, even though I didn't place at the top of my class, like, I had to make that time and effort happen. So.
And the thing with fighting games as well is that will be moments where you don't feel the progress that way. You might plateau, and it's something that you're going to have to push through. Now, the thing about fighting games, as opposed to other competitive ones, is that I think the way I phrase it, there's a tail end.
Yeah.
Let's say like League of Legends, MOBAs, like 25 is when you're kind of like people who try and play competitively kind of go to the wayside. Yep. Fighting games, in just their nature, your skills can travel with age a lot better.
I think we're going to touch upon that later, though.
Right. Now, the other thing, and this is, if you follow everything in this panel, one thing that you're going to realize is that people will not want to play with you anymore. Out of all my friends that aren't in my local scene, this is the only dude that will ever play Tekken 7 with me ever again. Because it's just not fun for people anymore. And if you get to the next level in which you don't get washed from people who are good, your friends will never play with you again. You're just too good. You know what a Hadouken is. You know how to low forward fireball, and that just blows their fucking brains. They don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of as you grow bigger and as you engorge yourself out to be the big fish in the small pond, you find yourself looking for bigger rivers to swim in. And we're going to be touching upon that later on in the panel. But yeah, for now, you're going to be that guy eventually if you want to get good.
You're not going to be fun at parties.
Yeah.
The first main point that I want to make this is not saying that arcade sticks are bad. You should never do anything. But there was a common sentiment when I was trying back in the day to get into Street Fighter 4. I thought there was this onus on me of, well, shit, everyone's got an arcade stick that's at Evo or in tournaments. I wasn't doing good on an Xbox 360 pad. I should spend $90 to get this tournament stick. That is not the way to do things.
Yeah.
It is all about comfort.
Yeah. The Koreans have a saying, it's called having something that fits your hand. And they mean that both literally and figuratively. That also for characters too, but especially with controllers. If you want to play on a Microsoft Flight Simulator stick, I've seen this before. I know you're all laughing. That man is a monster.
He will fuck you up with the racing stick. He messes dudes up. It's messed up.
But that's what he's comfortable with. And Initial T, the guy who beat, what was it, Dagura in tournament in Guilty Gear, he played on an Initial D steering wheel. And that's what he was comfortable with. It's insane, I know, but everyone has to have something that they're comfortable with, and that's the most important thing when you're trying to get good at these games.
And it does depend game to game too, because for the 6-button fighters like Street Fighter, I am more comfortable with a stick. But with the game that I'm really good at, Tekken, I prefer PS4 pad. Mm-hmm. It's my thing. Mm-hmm. Now the next part for this, it's a rant that I've been. It's a rant that I've had for a long time. Is when you were starting out in a fighting game and you listen to people on the internet talk about tier lists, you need to block them out. Because tier lists at the level of you going 0-2 at your locals or you not being able to beat people at MAGFest doesn't fucking matter. It is because you are bad. It is not because your character's bad or their character is better.
Right. When you're learning a game for the first time, you should pick a character that you feel, 1, comfortable with, and 2, someone that you actually want to grow with. Find a character that actually suits your needs, either through playstyle, like if you're a zoner, if you want to run away from people, pick a character that fits your playstyle. If you find someone that you really like aesthetically, like you are, a waifu bait type of guy, and you just love
anime tits.
Yeah, you just love anime girls. Pick an anime girl. Have fun. The important thing is you're having fun because when you enjoy what you're doing, you naturally get better at it because it's a positive feedback loop.
Also, it prevents you burning out. Now, admittedly, we're coming from Tekken 7, which is a, quote, very balanced game, whatever the fuck that means. And the tier lists are pretty, maybe not so much in Season 3, but it has for a while been pretty, contained, where everyone was pretty much viable. that's different for different games. Like if you're a big fan of even Marvel 2 or Marvel 3, that is the game of haves and have-nots. Or like there was like what, 8 viable characters in Marvel 2? Yeah, like of a cast of like 47.
Yep.
It's different for different ones.
Yep.
Now, having said all this, if your goal ultimately is to win, to quote the great Sanford Kelly, pick a top tier, yo. I'm tired for working for the money. I want the money to work for me. You know, there are tools. Just the nature of fighting games in general, there are going to be characters that will be better than others. If you can find ones that fit in your play style, and you enjoy it, that's one thing. If you want to win, you can sacrifice that. If winning's fun, I'll be the first to tell you, winning's fun.
Yeah. I recommend that as you get better in the game of your choice, because we're trying to make this game agnostic, you should pick one character that's good, if not like top 5, and then one character you actually want to play. Because that way you have the experience and you have a fallback in case you have a situation where your character just can't win, if it's that type of game. So.
Now, the next one, this was a thing that took me a while to understand, to really compartmentalize, and that means that you have to practice? Yes, you have to practice. Practice? Yes. You know, like we kind of brought it into the beginning. I play Tekken 7 for at least an hour or 2 a day now, and that is pretty much the only reason why I got to where I'm at now is the reps. You actually have to play the game on the semi-regular at the very least to like flourish, because everyone else who's like, even like playing online, the thing is that the more time goes on, the more people tend to filter out. And you're just left with fucking killers who don't care that you want to have fun. They just want to win.
And not only that, like if you don't practice, you best believe that someone else will. And that someone else is going to show their hours of experience that you lacked because you were caught napping.
Now, doing this in 2020, where we're kind of in an in-between period between like releases, you know, Street Fighter V's been out since what, like 2016. Tekken 7's been out from consoles 2 to 3 years, and then in arcades 5 years. Guilty Gear is old as dirt now. DBZ's like 2 or 3 years old now. It seems intimidating to start. You don't like, and I see a lot of talk of like, you know, people trying to get into fighting games where they're kind of, you know, focusing on the wrong things when they're starting out. They're really focused on, I gotta get my combos down. That's the most important part, because and it makes logical sense. You see the combos, they do big damage. I want to do big damage. I always find when I'm starting a game for fighting games and to get into it, the more important part to do is to, one, know what your character's moves do. Like you know, find out, all right, what are my buttons? Right. In Tekken, everyone has like a list of 45 moves. It's very intimidating to get into it. Like but the important thing is to learn maybe you're good 5, 10 moves, maybe a bread and butter combo.
If you're playing like Street Fighter or something like that, I like to use the analogy of building a house. In order to build a house, you need hammers, you need nails, you need hinges for your doors. You need to know what each individual component does so that you can build a house that is you being good. And if you don't understand the tools and the material that you're working with, then you can't build anything. You can just hammer a bunch of things into a wall and be like, I did it. And it was like, what is that? What is even that? No, it's my house.
I'm silver. I've won a couple, but And the thing is that like learning all the moves, that's important, and being in training mode to like, you know, figure those things out, that's all important. But it doesn't matter if you can't like hit a living target doing it. So you really can't. I don't really condone spending all your time in training mode to fully know what your character is, because you won't be able to figure that out unless you have actual people to play with.
I'm gonna pro tip here. So when I go into training mode for the first time, when I'm playing, I don't know, let's choose Street Fighter because it's the most universally understood thing. If I pick up like Ryu, I look at what does he want to do. Ryu wants to keep you away from him, usually, traditionally. So how do I do that? What are my tools? Oh, I have a thing that I can use to throw across the field, and that thing keeps them away because they have to block it. What happens? What's the way to get around it? Oh, they jump. Okay, I have moves designed to keep them out of my airspace so I can continue to throw fireballs and be lame. Okay, at this range, what do? Well, I can't throw fireballs because they can jump at me and hit me. So I have to do different things. And I go through that, and I figure out what each individual component is, and that's how you build the house.
And just to kind of go on top of that for how to effectively training, because the thing is, it really depends on what game you're playing. Not all games are created equal in teaching you how to play them. Games like, let's say, I know Mortal Kombat 11 just dropped that has a great training mode. Skullgirls, Killer Instinct. A lot of the Arc Sys games, like Guilty Gear, it's not an Arc Sys game, but Unist has very comprehensive training modes that will kind of teach you all the ins and outs. I had to learn from Skullgirls that jump in attacks act like overheads. Street Fighter didn't teach that to me. I was blocking low on that shit forever and getting blown up. So depending on your game of choice, there might be an amount of extracurricular like YouTubing that you're gonna have to do to figure out what it is. Tekken 7 being the prime example, because that game has nothing for you except for a giant ass move list and like a couple combos they suggest. It's a rough life.
And we just got like basic like frame data stuff, which means nothing if you're starting. So like what you want to do is, like Jordan said, seek out those YouTube tutorials. Like literally type into YouTube, how do I Street Fighter? And there will be plenty of comprehensive tutorials for the game, like how do I play Guilty Gear? You can get those tutorials. You guys are living in a golden age, because back in my day, that didn't exist.
Here we fucking go.
I am 33.
Oh my
I've been playing these games for 15 plus years. You know what I had to do back in the day before the internet was a thing?
Get bodied?
I had to get bodied, and I had to hope that the guy that was destroying me would be able to give me a helpful advice. And that was all I had. So you guys have every opportunity to succeed in this field with all the material that you have on the internet nowadays. Look, seriously, Google like how do you play your game, and you will get these tutorials.
Another thing, especially with like the consoles nowadays, recording your matches is a lot easier than it's ever been before. Like I can just press the select button on my PS4 after a match, and I can get, if I plan ahead, I can record the entire match, or I can get at least the last minute. I don't know how it is with the Xbox, but recording technology has come a long way, and a lot of it is built in, and that. Going back to your matches is a great way of kind of triaging what you're doing wrong. How is this guy blowing me up? Oh, I'm really throwing fireballs at a bad place right here. I'm hitting bad buttons at bad times. I'm jumping a lot. It's a really good way of looking back at what you did wrong, especially with your losses.
Yeah, it's hard to analyze it when you're in the heat of the moment. Like it's easy. Well, it's not easy to be a coach, but it's easier to be a coach and say, "Oh, you're messing up," than when you're in the hot seat and you're the pressure is building. It's hard to analyze from there, but that's
It's a skill that you're going to have to learn eventually, of knowing what you're doing wrong mid-match. But to get there, you have to see what you're doing wrong. So looking back at what you've done is a good way of developing that skill.
Right.
The other way that I've been using training mode, I really don't do it for combos all that often. I kind of have gotten away with murder because I'm a grappler, man. I don't have to learn combos by just using my bread and butter. And the big thing is matchup knowledge, learning. Let's say someone's blowing. You go to a character, one particular, let's say Ken. Just throwing it out there. Ken's moves just blow you up all the time. Using training mode to record what moves Ken's do that beats you all the time, and then just learning your ways around it is gonna pay off for you in the win column a lot better than optimizing your damage. And that's just how it is.
Yeah. That at base level, yes.
Yeah, obviously things get more complicated the deeper that you get into it, but we're kind of doing this on a base level to get people to stop getting taken L's, all that they do. So. Yeah. This slide seems obvious, that you have to play this game to win. But I bet you that if a lot more of you were playing to win, you'd be losing a lot less. Another way we've been kind of trying to say this is that you have to kind of take this seriously.
Yeah.
A beautiful kind of tweet I read once upon a time that was just trying to describe this feeling in fighting games is that everyone wants to do the cool thing that their character does all the time. I want to uppercut as Ryu all the time. As Zangief, they want to do the spinning pile driver.
Yeah.
But eventually, people are going to realize that. You have to eventually do the lame thing before you can do the cool thing.
Yeah. You have to, like, going back to the house analogy, before you get the cool Victorian, like, 2-floor house, you got to put a nail to a wall and tap it. And you have to do that a lot.
And there's multiple ways of doing it. Like, there's a lot of times that you're going to do nothing in the game. You have to just hold down back and just eat whatever they're going to throw at you. And there's more. And the thing is that you're not just playing the character that they're playing against. You're also playing the other person. You have to leverage any advantage that you can.
Right. If your opponent hiccups, if your opponent makes like whiffs something that they're not supposed to, and they're like in that phase of recovery, there's an opportunity there for you to capitalize. You need to look out for those moments. And in order to do that, you need to make sure that you're paying attention and you're not willy-nilly, I just want to do my stuff.
Also, for all you Smash Bros. Players out there, if I see you homie stalking somebody in tournament, get the fuck out of here. You are not wanted. In casuals, it's a different story. But when you're playing for serious, you can't just give mercy to somebody. There is a little bit of a killer instinct that you're going to have to develop if you want to get some consistency in your play style.
Yeah. In paying attention to that, if it's in the game, it's fair play. Like if
it's cheap, spam that shit.
If they can't break throws, throw them all day.
All day. That's me. Yeah. All day.
Yeah.
I can smell it when they can't break giant swing. I know. Now, to kind of expand on some of the kind of the higher level stuff when you're trying to get into fighting games. Now, I love this game Yomi because it is a great way of. The developer David Serlin loves himself some Guilty Gear and Street Fighter, and he realizes there is a meta game going on in these games that most people don't know, have never touched because they're not good at the mechanical parts of it.
Right.
And so he kind of teaches everybody that when you zoom all the way out, for pretty much all fighting games, everything breaks down into various levels of high stakes rock, paper, scissors.
Yep. At any given point in time, you're either throwing rock, you're throwing paper, or you're throwing scissors.
Or block, throw, punch.
Right.
Different kind of games have different iterations on it. Some, like DOA, has the parry system, but that's not necessarily important. That's getting too into the weeds.
Right. But usually the universal concept for each fighting game is strikes beat throws. Throws beat block. Block beat strike. And off that, depending on the permutations, this is very generally arcing because each game is a little different, but that's the triangle system on which many games are based.
And the thing is that it's not like actual rock, paper, scissors where it's like everything is at 33% strength. A friend once told me that I've stuck with me. Have you ever tried blocking? Blocking beats 90% of the moves in the game. It's something that you're gonna have to get your head around of what the power level of the equivalent of rock is to the gaming equivalent of scissors and to the gaming equivalent of paper is to try and get your head around it.
Right.
The other thing about this is that despite what people on the internet say about fighting games, people are terrible at being random.
Yeah.
There is an amount of pattern recognition that you're gonna have to get into to kind of get to the next level of this.
Like if I told everyone in this room I'm thinking of a number between 1 to 10, how many people would say 7?
I mean, now that you said that, no one's gonna actually
But my point is that we're really bad at coming up with spontaneous answers like that on the fly because we tend to stick to certain patterns and behaviors because that's what made us survive as a species. And we can exploit that in the terms of virtual combat.
Now, the next slide is gonna be very scary to a lot of newbies out there. I'm going to talk about frames. Now, it was a really funny story. I had it with my friend at New Year's. They wanted to learn about Tekken with me. And I was showing them the kind of the ropes of, oh, you're playing King, you want to do this move, you should do this when I miss against you. Hey, I want to talk, hey, this is +7. And they're like, hey, whoa. I don't want to hear any of that shit.
Yeah.
That sounds like homework.
Yeah.
And it is a very intimidating thing to get into. And we don't want to get too into like frame data in this, because it's different on different games too. Well, -3 in Street Fighter is way more scary than -3 in Tekken.
We need to figure out, we need to actually describe what we're actually talking about before we can even go into that.
Sure.
So imagine, for those of you that are completely new to fighting games, and I see a lot of faces who I do recognize here, so a lot of this might just be relaxing your warrants, and I apologize, but we need to assume a baseline here. So imagine each individual animation that happens as a series of consecutive still frames that work their way to completion.
Usually there's 60 of them in a second.
So I like to do the animation of a punch. So at the beginning, I have my hands up. I'm in a ready position. This means I can do anything. At the beginning of this, I extend, and there's a certain amount of frames of animation that I have before I actually hit Jordan's shoulder. And then I have so many frames of animation I have to do before I go all the way back and back into a ready position so I can actually, block and do other stuff. But during that time frame, I am exposed. All of that's happening. And sometimes the recovery, the amount of animation that I have to do is so great that, Jordan, could you punch me in the face?
Gladly. Oh, that felt great.
Yeah. We all get one. So, as you could see, I was still in the recovering animation, and he was able to fully punch me in the face. I was exposed. I couldn't do anything. I didn't have any opportunities to block. So stuff like that would be, in our parlance, be considered punishable. Now, sometimes, if I do this, and I recover, try to punch me now. Oh no, counter hit. Right. Because my recovery is such that as he's blocking, he's actually in a recovery state. So that sometimes I recover faster than he does. So then I can just bat.
The easy way of thinking about it is turns.
Yeah.
There are going to be some moves that your character is able to do where you can move before the opponent character can move, and vice versa. There are some moves that are considered quote unsafe, in which they are able to advance or move against you before you can. There's two hard ways to go about learning this. One is the long way, in which you just do it the hard way and you just fight a lot. And you play Tekken 7 for 2 years every day, and you kind of eventually realize, all right, I can move when this guy moves when he does this particular move, or oh, this is unsafe. I will get punished for this. Yeah. There is a lot, or you can go on whatever the internet. There's tons of apps out there of that will spell that out for you. Now that's the shitty homework way that's boring and very rough, but it is a way of kind of circumventing a long way of doing it.
And this is not, you have to understand every single bit of information in the game. That is way too much work.
Your brain will explode.
Way too much effort. What you have to do is you have to just know that what the key moves that your opponent's going to be throwing out a lot, and you have to go, okay, I can actually, when he's doing that big wind-up punch, I can punch him afterwards. That's the type of stuff you should keep in mind. It becomes my turn. So it's kind of like, as Jordan was saying, it's your turn, my turn. Now, if I'm recovering faster than he is, it's my turn. If I'm recovering slower, it's his turn.
And just watch out, because you really shouldn't be using frames as gospel. Because there's degenerates out there that don't give a shit what the numbers are. They're going to do what they want to do.
Yeah, but you have to be prepared for that, and you have to anticipate that. That's part of the knowing, when you can bat, jab, or, just block. But
now, for the next kind of section of this, I stole an awesome phrase from a guy that's way smarter than me, that's into game theory and all that, and it's called positional heuristics. It's kind of learning or recognizing in a setting who is in the lead in a race. A great example I love to use is Mario Kart. It's lap 1, and you're in first place in Mario Kart. Does that mean anything? No. They're gonna get a blue shell, and that guy's gonna go back to 4th real quick. It's looking at the board and realizing like what the stakes are.
Yeah.
So we have a great example for this. So take a quick look at that picture. Who's winning that game?
Show of hands. Is Steve winning right now? Show of hands.
Steve Fox is the guy in the white and the right, on the left. Okay.
All right.
Now Akuma, who has almost about, I'd say like an eighth of his life left, is he winning?
Yeah.
God damn it.
Smart marks.
All right. So some people have been playing this before. So let's see this round in motion.
It was at this
Whoops.
time that Steve knew that he made a terrible mistake.
First of all, just Akuma's fucked up, and he's fucked up in every game that he's ever in, and he will always be broken forever.
All right, Jordan. Yeah. Anyways,
And third strike, sure, yeah, fine.
His opinions are his opinions alone on that one. But anyways,
They had to nerf him 4 times in like
all right.
Street Fighter
So
4
anyways,
before he was bad.
back on track. Life bars are not the only thing you're going to have to start paying attention to. As you saw in that particular snippet, you saw that I like to think of things as resources. So your health is actually, I think of it as a resource. It's what you can expend. When you have a high amount of life, you have a little bit more time to play around. You have more time to like go, okay, I'm going to try this and see if this works. Or I'm going to get goofy and try this particular thing, and he's going to fall for it. Ha, he's an idiot. Like, you have more time to play around and do stuff like that. When your life bar starts going down, that resource starts to dwindle. Same with time. Now, every tournament game you'll ever be in that's a fighting game is going to have a clock. And when that clock ticks down to 0, whoever has the most life universally is the one that's going to win. That's the decision. So you have to consider the clock as a resource that is continuously and ever depleting.
And then meter is the most obvious resource that people have. And the thing is that it is also game specific and character specific. Some characters can get a lot more juice out of their meter, Akuma, than other characters can. And so that's something that you are going to have to be cognizant of. And now, this is not something that's going to happen right away, of you realizing that. That is something that's going to take time of you recognizing situations before you get to that level. But it's something that you should be looking at the very least, to try and get better.
Yep.
I kind of made this as an add-on to the playing to win screen. That there's no necessarily wrong way to play. Like, there's no, like, at the end of a Street Fighter round, there isn't something that goes, you win, but you were a bitch about it though. Like, that doesn't exist, right? Like, DLC. People, and admittedly, this is PS4 people on the internet yelling at you that, you were just random, so this win, it doesn't count. That doesn't exist. Fighting games are binary. You win or you lose.
Yep.
How you get there,
it doesn't matter, really.
Really.
As long as you don't unplug the opponent's controller and like punch him in the face to distract him, as long as you keep it within the game, it's all good.
Now, that isn't to say that like all degenerate play styles are all created equal. There is going to be times where people are going to learn you that you're doing the dumb thing when you do the dumb thing.
Right.
And it is going to take time to realize, like, all right, what is good for this situation? Right. But it's player specific. If my opponent doesn't know how to deal with fireballs, you best believe I'm running my ass all the way to the end of the screen and just throwing the Hadouken over and over and over again as he gets angrier and angrier and angrier that he can't deal with it. That's perfectly legitimate.
So the only question you should be asking yourself, like when you're enacting a strategy, is it working? Is it working? Do I see the opponent getting more desperate? If the answer is yes, it's working. Keep doing it. As soon as you start seeing the tides turn and they start adapting to that playstyle, which is the biggest part of fighting games, is adaptation. I know we don't really have slides for that because that's an entirely different panel unto itself. You begin to realize, okay, this strategy isn't working anymore. Maybe doing 1 million sweeps like at the start of the round.
The American unblockable.
Yeah. Like, maybe I should stop doing that because it's no longer working.
And I just want to shout out the lamest character of all time. My man's Hungry Box got a raw crab thrown at him because his playstyle got so angry. Sometimes you just gotta fucking run away and lame the dude the fuck out. You just gotta either get the life lead or get a stock up on him and run away. Yep. That is at. But it is. But like I said, there are no illegitimate losses in fighting games. If people get angry at you because you lame them out, that's their fault. They can hold that shit.
It's working. That's the highest compliment I can get is someone getting mad at me.
Oh, because it gives me power.
Because it's like that episode of South Park where I just open the nipple flats. My strategy is effective. Ooh, you don't like that. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Now, we kind of structured this panel so far that you can get relatively all of these kind of like the reps in, the skills in, from playing both online or offline. But there's going to get a point to where playing on the internet is only going to get you so far, either based on latency or based on just the amount of trolls that there are out there on the internet. But eventually, you're going to have to play people in the real world, and it's hard for me to make this point because it's hard. It is hard. Like, depending on where you live, I live in the sticks in Massachusetts. I have to drive 2 hours to Boston if I ever want to get like some actual sets in. I can't go to weeklies. I have to like pick once a month at best for me to go. Well, I mean, and that's I'm lucky. Some people don't even have a scene out there, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it's a value judgment. If it's important to you, you will find a way. Like, just like anything in life, if you want to become good at fighting games and you live in the boonies like poor sad boy Jordan over here, you might have to make the trips to Boston, or you may have to go to Worcester, and that's just your life, and you just have to attune for it. Yeah.
Atone for it is a different thing.
Atone for it, yes, yeah. Freudian slip.
Now, if you're lucky and you actually have like friends that are willing to play with you, you can make your own scene. And listen, it might not be as effective as finding like some veteran people. Like I'm lucky that I have Zoob to introduce me to the local scene here of people that have been playing for a while, so I can get better.
Yeah.
However, if you have the genuine drive to do it, and you are lucky enough to even have a person near you that also has that drive, going through it together, picking things apart, you can level up.
Yeah, you reach out. Like a lot of communities that I found in like the various competitive groups actually use Facebook groups a lot. So if you have a Facebook profile, there you go. Just type in I'm from New England, so like New England Tekken, and you type it in, and lo and behold, there's a page for it.
Washington, D.C. FGC, Maryland FGC.
Yeah, and you can find the matchmaking, because that's what it's there for. Then you, introduce yourself, go, hi, I'm Jordan, I want to learn how to play Tekken. And then, because everyone has an incentive to get better, and the more the merrier, because that gives you more variety, more experience, more different mentalities on the game, and everyone grows, ideally, then yes, people will reach out to you and get you to, I've been to so many homes from total strangers.
Dudes' houses.
Yeah, dudes' houses I've never met before in my life, in their living room, playing Tekken 5. That's how old I am, all right? But that's how I started. Like, just random strangers' living rooms, playing the game that we had in common.
And, like, it's kind of hard for me to say this because I am just an average white dude. So, like, I kind of live a different kind of, like, life than maybe other people. But I've always found that people want people to get into the scene. And people have been always very accommodating, at least to me, of trying to get better. This is a little bit of a mean side. Now, fighting games are very frustrating, and they are designed to make you angry because fighting games are, at the end of the day, bullshit.
Yeah.
Please don't be this guy, because I'm gonna take that screen cap and shame you on Twitter
and in a panel. Exactly. Thanks, Anime Freak 013. Stay free.
Wait, that's me.
If he's here, oh man, I wish that was a thing. Is it blurry? Listen, if you want me to do a dramatic reading, please. Okay, all right. Okay, thank you. Man, you just made my day, buddy. All right. OMG, why am keep fighting against spammers? I got so mad at annoying, spammy, shitty playstyle that I couldn't focus at all. I'm so sick of people that spam and do the same shit a lot. Especially your king. My God, you are a pro at doing the same shit. No skill. Mix up your damn combos. I see good king players that don't. Oh wait, I've seen good king players that don't play like your shitty ass play style that does same shit a lot and same grab as well. I 5-0'd this dude for the record.
All right. I want to seg you because one of the greatest hate mail messages I got was in Tag 2, and it was some guy popping off in broken Spanish, and it was like 25 messages of "Ooh, puta de madre, ooh, f, blah, 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 blah." Exclamation points, emoticons, rage, hijo de madre, boo, 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 boo.
So, to conclude, like, damn, homie. All right, so, like I said, fighting games are almost designed to make you angry because there's just shit in there that is frustrating. It is always going to fuck you over getting angry like that. It's not that you can't get angry. It is you have to kind of, like, as a YouTuber, Eris would say, harness your chi. Figure your shit out. You got to center yourself. Yeah. It is very important to do so. Otherwise, it's just going to ruin. One, it's going to burn you out real quick.
Oh, yeah.
Is nothing like Salt is going to get you not playing fighting games anymore.
Yeah. I mean, Salt is a natural part of the progression. You're going to get angry. You're going to get frustrated. There's going to be some days where I see some people out in this group that will just want me, and I will get mad, and I will have to walk away with my emotions because we're human beings, and that's what happens when you're trying to get good at something and you hit a brick wall. It's annoying. It's frustrating. It's part of the process. You have to take the time to get over yourself.
Also, if you lose, you can never say, I'm better than that guy. But I lost, though. Because that's just a dumb fucking thing to say.
Yeah.
You have to learn to hold that L.
Yeah, don't be Anime Freak 13.
013, thank you.
Yeah, 013.
013. No, okay.
I'm sorry.
I got you, buddy. I got you. Now, the main reason why we made this panel, this whole entire thing, is because I wanted to get people more into a scene that I love. Because even when you get to the next level where you're not just button mashing, there is something so beautiful. And as Takuhiro says, fighting games are just something so great when you get to the next level.
Yeah.
And so. We have time for questions. So if anyone has any comments, anything they want to get off their chest, if they want to challenge me to a money match, please.
We have
What's
one.
up, buddy?
I'm honestly curious about it. I heard you make the comment that you believe like MOBAs and like have a harder age fall off. And I don't know, I always viewed it as personally the exact opposite. There's a much lower reaction speed demand.
So he, just for the YouTube, because this is getting recorded, so he's kind of commenting on the age fall off between fighting games and things like Counter-Strike and MOBAs and the like.
Counter-Strike and MOBAs.
Yeah, that'd be different.
I suppose. So I guess
he's talking like League of Legends and stuff like that.
MOBAs. Yeah. So the thing is that this is this is just me personally, like, going through it. The reads section of it, the mind game portion of fighting games, I feel kind of actually gets better the more experience that you get, the older that you get.
It's entirely subjective thing. Like, I can't comment on the nature of MOBAs because I don't play them. So it's one of it depends on the game. Just like anything within the competitive field, it depends on the game. It depends on the nature of the metagame that's being played. I can't comment on it. So
you can't smash that.
We had another.
So was it anything 013, right?
Yes.
Considering how many times the word spam was used, do you ever just like
So,
I have a funny story. When you
so about spamming deliberately, apps.
Well, as you said earlier,
Yeah.
No, he's spamming you by complaining about.
Oh yeah.
It's like you ever just try to shut someone down by calling them out on that.
Not really, because I'm like Emperor Palpatine when I get that kind of hate mail. I'm like, yes, give me more hate. I want all of the hate.
I'm the exact opposite. I'm the nicest guy in person, but the moment you start being that boy, I beat someone in like Street Fighter HD Remix, and they like kept complaining. So I recorded on my smartphone Donny Osmond's "Be a Man" and me singing along to it, and sent it to him. And then he blocked me afterwards. But man, that feeling of deep American pride was something to have for that full 5 minutes.
Anyone else? We'll go back and we'll work our way around. So you in the way back with the dreads.
On like tier lists and learning a fighting game, do you think that is kind of bad for a beginner to pick a lower tier character that might not have all the basic tools a character could need because they might lose out on some step of learning fundamentals of the game? Like when I was getting into Tekken 7, I was like, oh, I'm gonna play as Gigas because he looks really cool. And my friend was like, yeah, he just doesn't have some tools that other characters have. So.
Well, it's
to repeat the question
Yeah.
for the YouTube. So he was asking for picking up and learning the fighting games with the tier list in mind. Is it like kneecapping yourself to pick a lower character that you might think is cool?
Well, it's more of a value judgment. I want to speak on this because I've been in this position before. It's more of a value judgment. Will playing this character encourage you to get better at the game? And if you want to play a character that is may not necessarily have the whole toolkit to build the house I was talking about, keep you invested in the game, and then maybe you'll branch out as a result of it, as a result of you wanting to get better at the game and understanding like how to become better with your character. I think there's a real incentive as to getting behind your avatar. If you really like the character you're playing, then you'll find a way. And also, it encourages you to really understand certain aspects of the game. It is hard, I will acknowledge, that at the beginning of the game, when you're a beginner and you don't know A from B, that picking Gigas as a perfect example, actually. Gigas is a pretty limited character. But it also teaches you different aspects, talking specifically to Tekken 7, about certain aspects of the game, which is spacing and movement, because you have to rely on that because you don't have the other tools. You have to rely on a very good jab, which is a very important staple of that. You have to know how to jab. You have to know how to space. And Gigas definitely does encourage that. It's just that he lacks the panic options. He lacks some of the like mix-ups. We didn't really talk about them, but but like lacks some of those elements. But he does still bring some of the Tekken formula to the forefront if you take the time and patience to really want to get better with that character.
And the other thing with trying to learn a game, this is a monkey do as I say, not as I do, because I only have enough like room in this Rolodex up here for like one character at a time and me pushing through to get really good at. But trying to learn multiple characters is really only ever going to help you at the end of the day. Even if you don't stick with them, you knowing what their shit is and what they do and like why it's good and why it's bad is always going to help you in the long run. Mm-hmm. So it might not even be a bad idea if you know that maybe your main choice is not like as high or as strong as other characters out there. Picking up a secondary will never hurt you.
You can always pick up more characters. Now, you don't need to feel pigeonholed. Like, if you want to pick that one character, that's on you. But there's a whole character selection screen, and you can always pick up new characters the more you understand about the game.
Just hands again. We'll go with you, and then we'll work. Yes, yes.
So I saw you had a slide on salt.
Yes.
There are a lot of people that I've seen in competition that use the salt to their actual advantage.
Uh-huh.
We
should answer that. Reset.
Right. So you. Correct me if I'm wrong. So your question is should you even be scared of getting salty?
Well,
or is it necessarily a bad thing to be salty?
Yeah.
Maybe I didn't word that as well as I wanted to. It's more of it's a volatile emotions when you're out there. And it can help you as much as it can hurt you. It is more just like trying to center yourself and not let, the like getting grabbed 5 times in a row, the Red Bull haze that I would put me in, kind of like fuck me up and get me off my game.
And every person is different. I know a Legacy Steve player in my area who only does good when he's pissed out of his mind. Like, that's his trigger. As soon as you annoy the shit out of him, he becomes a god. And that's just how he plays. Like, every player is different. Like, salt is a resource you have to manage. If you are heavy sodium intake and that causes a negative impact to your ability to play the game, you have to regulate yourself. But if you like to go full soy sauce on people and that works for you, please check your blood pressure. You're a volatile human being, but also maybe you can use that. It depends on the player.
I saw a hand up over on this side. Yes.
Cool. So I had a question kind of piggybacking off that. So what's your guys' opinion on trash talking in competitive? You have like, say, pork chop, for example.
Yeah.
So like using that to kind of tilt your opponent into place for that, or you think that should be left?
To repeat the question, this is more specifically about trash talking your opponents, and just being disrespectful, I suppose. And where we fall on that now, me personally, I have pretty thick skin, so I will talk that shit if necessary. I don't really default to that because I don't know who my opponents are, and I don't know how they're going to react necessarily. Yeah. But I have no problem people doing it to me or me doing it to other people necessarily.
I like to go by the rule of know your venue. If you are working in a local scene and you're being that guy, maybe you don't want to be that guy because that might be the only place you go to try to get better. You don't want to pee in your own ocean, so to speak. So, but on the other hand, if it's Evo and you think you have the opportunity, it depends on how the tournament is organized. It's a fine line you have to walk.
Like me personally, I'm cool with it, and I can say this not living in the era where people are getting stabbed over Marvel 2. So I have maybe a different opinion of it, of maybe someone from back in the day who for that is. But I personally, I kind of like it. I kind of like talking shit.
Yeah.
Any other hands? We'll go with you. Yes.
One thing I heard is that if you play long sets, either in friendlies or online, and then eventually you get better in those sets, it feels good, but it might just be that you learn something that works against that specific player. But in a tournament, you don't have that many steps of gameplay. So is there any way you can possibly train how to learn your opponent's habits faster?
So the question is, are long sets beneficial? Is it just you learning the habits of that one player that you're playing over and over again? What are the merits and what are the drawbacks for long sets? Is that a good summation of it?
Well, it's mostly a bad thing, I think, but I'm wondering, is there a way you can practice on your own of how to learn your opponent's habits faster?
And the option B for that as well is there a way for you to learn the skills you would get from a long set independently by focusing on certain behaviors? Well, there is. It depends on the game. Like in the game I play, there are options to repeat action where you set a certain series of patterns. This is a perfect example for me. I was getting bodied by this Master Raven who just did the same 3 things over and over again. So what I did is I went to training mode and I made those exact patterns happen through the repeat action function in the Tekken practice mode. And yes, that was beneficial, but I needed to play those long sets to realize that was a problem that I was getting consumed by. So there is a benefit and there's a cost analysis to be had in long sets. I tend to do, if I'm going to do long sets, unless it's against a really high level player that I know is just objectively better than me, I tend to run no more than first to 5s, first to 10s, because that encourages me to quickly learn that opponent's behavior and capitalize on it. Because like you said, Tournaments don't give you that luxury. It's usually best 2 out of 3 until you fight for the privilege to be 3 out of 5. And you have to learn the short sets. So I think that there's a balancing act between short sets and long sets. I encourage you, if you're in your community, to get your people who just sit on the same console and just play each other for 2.5 hours and not play anyone else. First to 3, get up. First to 3, get up. You don't have any more. You don't have any more time. And then if you're trying to learn a specific matchup, first to 10. I want to get the guy in the tie because he's been raising his hand for like forever.
So, as someone who grew up in the suburbs and had to drive an hour to play Marvel 3 back when that came up, I'm now spoiled by the fact that I live in Philly and have a scene not too far. But even when I started getting more competitive in my Guilty Gear, for example, I still find myself driving 2 hours to play once a month. How far do you consider driving, or if you had that kind of transportation, to consider the scene? How far are they?
That's real. Okay, so I really like that question. So he's kind of asking for the YouTube, how far is your radius to still be considered a local? Is that fair to say? Now, I personally, I'm a crazy person. I will drive the 2 hours to Boston, and because we're in the same state, I consider that my local, to be quite honest with you. So that's kind of where my litmus test is, but that is going to be dependent on the person and their resources. I'm lucky enough that I can afford that kind of gas money to go there, even on a monthly basis. Yeah. It really does depend on what you have and what you have. If you have a car or not, right? Yeah. If you don't have a car, your locals are where your public transportation can get you.
Yep. I think we have time for maybe 1 or 2 more.
Yeah. Morton, what's up?
Okay, so you were talking about how we should not feel bad about spamming or playing cheap.
Yeah.
Just as long as it works.
Yeah.
What if the person that you're playing against, that you're spamming against, is clearly someone learning, and that you kind of feel bad for them, that they don't want to throw them? Like, should you still throw them into the fray like that? Yeah. Likewise, I am also struggling with, I'll be specific, DOA, because the only person I have to play against is the second best D20 player in the house.
Oof.
X. Okay. So.
So the question is, playing to win is all fine and all, but I'm afraid, I'm paraphrasing you. I'm afraid that the person I'm playing against who's learning the game is going to get discouraged by me, basically bullying him. How do I leverage that, and also how do I deal with the fact that the only person I can play against in the game of my choice, being DOA currently, is one of the nation's best players. And the answer is be the teacher that you want to have to learn the game. And I strongly believe that being able to teach someone the game that you're playing is the best way to learn. Because you learn what you don't know, and you go, oh, I've got to address that in my next lesson plan, and then you learn more about the game. So if you're doing I don't know, let's make this a little bit more concrete. If you're throwing fireballs with Ryu, and your beginner Zangief player keeps getting punched in the face by these Hadokens and doesn't know how to get around it, then you go, okay, you take them aside and go, I'm throwing fireballs because I realized that you don't have the way to get around it, so I know it's beneficial. And you make it a conversation, what do you think you could do to get around me? And you make that a back and forth, and you make that a lesson plan, basically. That's how I would address it.
Having said that, every once in a while, you gotta throw a motherfucker in the blender. And to quote Justin Wong, they go and learn. Yeah. We have, I think, one more real quick one. Yes, man with the blue hair.
Thank you. Sorry, I obviously got here late, so I don't want to waste anyone's time. But I would call myself an intermediate Smash player.
Okay.
Who is as easily at the top of his group of friends, who wants to break out into the wider group. And I don't always lose 0-2, but I lose a lot. And so do you have any general advice for me?
So the question is, he's an intermediate player. He's one of the better players in his group, but he wants to branch out. He's the big fish in the small pond. We did kind of address a little bit of that at the beginning of it. No, it's fine. You came in late, and I appreciate you being here, really. So, do you have?
It's hard because I don't play Smash, right? So like it's all gonna be general advice, but it is like honestly, it's gonna take time. Like it took me a better part of like a year of playing almost constantly before I stopped going 0-2 in tournament as well.
Yeah.
So like a lot of it is gonna be just you getting your reps and getting your butt whipped by other players because you have to.
Have you checked the radius around you to see if there were like public venues for you to play Smash?
I have. I've gone to a few local tournaments, and I do okay, but it just doesn't feel like there are enough going on.
Like you feel like.
I don't lose like outright, but I don't necessarily excel either. I just kind of.
I see.
Feel like I'm a little stuck.
So you're stuck in a rut.
It helps when I'm Mega Man main.
Okay. So I can't fully talk about Smash, but I can talk about generalities about you being stuck in a rut.
Because I was there pretty recently myself, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
So
what I would do is I would seek out the things you have difficulties with. So I'm assuming that you hit certain brick walls, like there's certain characters you just can't beat, certain players that you can't beat. Is that currently what the problem is?
Yeah, I would say that like I will come up across players like as much as I know about Smash or played my whole life, they will just absolutely body me, and I feel like I've never played the game before.
Have you actively sought them out and went, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Could you like tell me what you see when you play me?
I have not done.
Okay, you should do that because I've done that with my.
That's the only way I got better is by asking other people for stuff.
Yeah.
We are at also thank first of all thank you everybody so much. It blows my mind anytime anyone shows up to these things.
Yeah, this is.